Ladies and gentlemen, your sweet Zionist white colonizer coming to you live from an undisclosed location. What's up? My name's Tal, the traveling clat. Let me fix my camera a bit. Special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, I believe is his name, just gave a speech or a press briefing outside of the White House with some crazy threats hurled at Hamas again, reiterating what Donald Trump said. Let's take a look here.
We feel that Hamas has not been forthright with us, and it's time for them to be forthright with us. And Eden Alexander would be a very important show. And so we'll see how they're going to react. The president has issued a statement about what's acceptable to him and what's not. And hopefully we'll see some good conduct next week, and I'll be able to go in there and have discussions.
So are you still hoping for a phase two? Is the three-phase kind of agreement framework still in place, or did the president's social kind of up in that?
Well, I would say that the president basically was saying, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's fairly clear he was saying, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of mistreatment.
Yep.
There's a lot of conversation among these hostages about the deprivation that they went through, about murders that they saw.
And we all know this, by the way, since October 7th, one of the reasons why all of us Israelis and pro-Israel people have been advocating for the rights of these hostages is because we know, no matter what the Hamas propaganda is, how terribly they are treated in Gaza and how terribly these hostages were treated in the last year and a half. And that's the reason why now all this stuff is starting to come out as the hostages were being released, and you can't deny it. And luckily we have a president like Trump in power right now who's willing to actually take action about it. Because if it was the Biden administration or Kamala, God forbid, who was president, I don't think that they would have the same rhetoric.
I think that the president listened to it, absorbed it, and said, "This it's unacceptable. I'm not going to tolerate this type of behavior."
So what does that mean for phase two negotiations?
I don't think I don't think, as the president has said before, I don't think you alert everybody how you're going to negotiate.
True.
Well, what your reaction's going to be.
Keeping it vague and unintelligible to Hamas is probably the most important thing. You want them to fear you. You don't want to give them your cards away.
Wouldn't test President Trump.
Steve, what is the bottom line? What happens when, and what's the bottom line for President Trump, and what happens? Does the U.S. authorize someone to take action, or does the U.S. take action?
Well, I think it's unclear exactly what's going to happen. I think there's going to be some action taken. It could be jointly with the Israelis. It's unclear right now, but I think Hamas has an opportunity to act reasonably,
Yep.
to do what's right,
Yep.
and then to walk out.
Yep.
They're not going to be a part of a government there. Everybody understands that, and that is implicit in the May 27th protocol agreement pursuant to which these negotiations are happening.
Now, I'm sorry, guy. I know some of you guys don't like it when I pause frequently, but listen to what he says here about how Gaza or Hamas will not be a part of a future government in Gaza. Like this whole Trump-Gaza situation, obviously we know, has been an immense negotiating tactic to scare off or ward off Palestinian extremism through Hamas to try to step down on their own accord rather than being forced to step down through military action. I think, again, it's very clear that the Trump administration and Donald Trump do not want to go back to war in Gaza. That's why there's a lot of tough talk happening. They do not want to go back to fighting. They don't want to see it. It's not going to be good for anybody. It's not going to be good for Israel. It's not going to be good for Palestinians. It's not going to be good for the press of the Trump administration. They don't want it. They're trying to get Hamas to force themselves to step down. The problem is, and this is one of the main issues, Palestinian society and Hamas are a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, they are very, 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 very stupid people. Very, very dumb. And I don't say this to disparage Palestinian society, but they have a proven track record of consistently making the wrong decisions, consistently throughout their life. And I could sit here and tell this to a Palestinian face-to-face with love. I can have immense amounts of love and a desire for coexistence and peace with Palestinians or with Arabs of the Levant, whatever you guys want to call them. A lot of you guys give me shit for using the word Palestine in my videos, and you know what, fair enough, I respect your opinion. I don't care, personally. I can use the word interchangeably, it doesn't matter to me. But this is the reality of Palestinian society. They consistently, the only thing that they are consistent with in their life story is making the bad and the wrong decisions over and over and over and over again. And so when you have a society like that, it's very hard to find the silver lining on how can you count on them to eventually step down and make the wrong decisions? Like, I know Trump desperately doesn't want to go back to war with them, but it may be the only choice. And I say that very reluctantly because none of us want it. I'd rather them step down and we can take over Gaza, get our hostages back, and try to figure out a solution for the future for peace. But you can't count on them to make the right decision.
So I think they have to understand that. And if they understand that, then they get a path to leave.
Including military action?
I don't.
A lot of hostages families in Israel are concerned that if the focus changes to only American hostages, I believe Israeli hostages, not Americans behind. What can you say to them? And also regarding the negotiations, would going back to military options in Gaza, is that something that is on the table, even though it can put hostages at risk?
So I would say to you, Yuna, that yesterday there were 2 American hostages in the room and there were 7 other Israelis. So lives matter to the Trump administration. All lives matter to him. And he was focused on all lives. So
When is the just a question. The negotiations with Hamas, exactly how long have they been going? Have you spoken with Hamas about anything other?
I can't really hear this question.
Finally, with Ukraine, is the president satisfied with the outreach of Ukraine from President Zelensky?
So I have not met with Hamas, but my understanding is that any discussions with Hamas have been recent. Not 3 weeks has been reported, but a couple of days, and that's well within the ambit of the special envoy. In fact, that's his job.
We know, by the way, that recently the talks between Israel and Hamas have pretty much degraded, and I think the envoy that was sent to Egypt, to Cairo, didn't seed anything productive at all, and so conversations started going directly through Trump administration and maybe the U.S. special envoy to the Middle East and Hamas directly now, where there's either negotiations or conversations happening directly between the U.S. and Hamas.
His job is to get these people home. We help in that effort, so I commend him for doing that. Adam cares about lives, as everybody should be, and the hostage families are, I think, grateful for it, and so is President Trump.
You said there was a framework on Tuesday for Ukraine. Will the minerals deal be signed then on Tuesday?
Well, I think Zelensky has offered to sign it, and we'll see if he follows through.
Mr. Witkoff, can I ask about yesterday the hostages came and they met President Trump. President Trump yesterday posted writing Shalom Hamas, hello and goodbye. And what does it mean exactly? And can you tell us, how did you feel yesterday with the hostages at the Oval Office? It was such an amazing meeting. He heard their stories. You really asked them to tell their stories. And can you tell us if you think that you'd like to go through with the second phase of the deal?
I think he felt the awesome responsibility of this office. And I think he listened to 9 human beings who had been held in captivity in some really difficult circumstances say to him, thank God for you. Thank God for your election. Thank God, because each and every one of them, to a person, not scripted, said, but for him, they would not be there today. And they were grateful for their families. And you know, in the Jewish religion, save a life, you save 1,000 lives. The president was there listening to 9 people say that each of them view their lives as being saved by him. They talked about how they heard about his election, and they were uplifted. They were in these dark, dank caverns, 200 feet below the surface of the earth, never having any hope. And when they heard he was elected, they were ebullient. They had never felt like they were elated, waiting for him, because they knew he was going to help them get rescued. So it was a really emotional experience for him and for me and everybody who was in that Oval Office yesterday. Caroline was there too, and you can ask her. It was deeply moving yesterday.
Will there be a phase 2?
I think I want to end on this note because that was really beautiful. Maybe I don't think I say this enough, okay? And I'm going to take a moment to say it right now because I know many of you guys who are watching are Americans, and some of you are not even Jewish Americans or Israeli Americans. Some of you have no like physical or familial ties to Israel. You just support Israel out of love for the Jewish people and love for Israel. Thank you. Truly thank you. And I would even say, I know this would never reach him, but thank you to President Trump. Thank you to Steve Witkoff. Thank you to Caroline. Thank you to everybody in the Trump administration right now, because we were genuinely afraid for a while. Like there was a fear that the U.S. would never really step up to the plate to help us. And clearly, I mean, it's clear as day now, more than ever, when you see Hamas parading babies inside of coffins, parading them in the street with their dead mother and playing pranks, taking a moment to play pranks in the middle of returning the hostages. You can see and you can notice just how disgusting the other side is and how much we are on the moral right. And I'm so deeply appreciative with all the controversy that Trump goes through and all the missteps that he's done in the past and all the missteps he'll make in the future. In this particular instance, his administration, this special envoy to the Middle East, and him, I'm deeply appreciative of everything that they are doing for my country and for my people. The time spent on the hostages, the time spent speaking to the hostage families, platforming them, this will never, ever be forgotten by Am Yisrael. I can promise you that, by the Jewish people. This will never, ever be forgotten. We are so appreciative. And furthermore, beyond that, for all of those Americans who are watching this right now, who may think you don't need to be involved with Israel and leave Israel alone and we don't want to be a part of Israel's war. Israel's war is your war. This threat that Israel is dealing with is knocking at your doorstep, America. And the more of you guys who wake up to the fact that we're in this fight together, America and Israel, and most of the civilized world, when you realize that this fight is together, you realize how important it is to actually support Israel. Not because we want your money, not because we want your influence, not because we want your media or your pop culture. It's not about that. It's about the fact that we are in a fight together. And I would say a majority Christians and Jews right now are in a fight together against radical Islam and radical jihadism. For those of you guys who are listening right now, who are from North America, from the US, from Canada, from anywhere in the world, and you blindly support Israel or you love Israel out of a love for Israel, thank you. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciative. This rhetoric from Steve Witkoff makes me emotional, and it makes me, I remember how much we were yearning during the Biden administration for an administration that would really support us and come out and look out for our best interest. And I feel like we actually have it now. So thank you guys. I deeply appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Shabbat Shalom to all of my fellow Jews out there. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. See you guys in the next one. Love you a long time. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.